I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love Snow White.
Look no further than what Disney is doing with their woke, DEI, feminist agenda.
Terrible choice for Snow White. Nothing about her says Snow White, and that's even leaving aside the fact that she openly detests the story, as she said many times during this disastrous PR campaign.
Have you ever seen a giant fall? Disney is crashing down right now, and everyone is watching. The entertainment titan that once ruled Hollywood is being publicly humiliated as their Snow White remake becomes the most ridiculed movie of the decade. What went wrong? Brace yourself for the inside story they don't want you to know. Imagine spending $200 million on a movie so bad that South Park, The Simpsons, Jack Black, Joe Rogan, and Bill Maher all united to tear it apart. This isn't just another box office bomb, it's an industry earthquake that's changing how Hollywood works. And at the center of this perfect storm, Rachel Zegler, whose controversial comments ignited a firestorm that turned millions of potential fans against the film before it even premiered. You're about to discover the shocking behind-the-scenes drama that Disney executives are desperately trying to hide. From empty theaters to merchandise collecting dust on shelves, the company that built an empire on princesses is watching their crown jewel crumble before their eyes. The most stunning part? This disaster could have been completely avoided. Disney's first ever animated feature, the beloved 1937 classic that launched their entire kingdom, was reborn as something unrecognizable. Viewers weren't just disappointed, they were furious. And when South Park unleashed their brutal woke white parody, the floodgates of mockery burst wide open.
Snow White slept and waited for her prince to come, but he never did. Because a woman shouldn't have to depend on a man. Snow White was brought back to life by a lady doctor.
And she lived happily ever after?
Well, she couldn't indulge in strenuous activities like handball, but otherwise, she was fine.
What happens when the most powerful entertainment company on Earth makes a catastrophic miscalculation? And more importantly, how will this change every movie you watch from now on? The Hollywood power shift happening right now might be the biggest industry revolution we've seen in decades. South Park jumped right into the fight with a hilarious episode about Woke White the Reinvention. The show is famous for not holding back, and this time was no different. Their clips spread everywhere online within hours. In the story, all the characters we love get replaced by new diverse characters who only talk about how unfair society is, clearly poking fun at Disney's new approach to movies. The jokes hit home because they said out loud what many people were already thinking. The problem isn't adding diversity, it's changing stories so much that they don't feel like the originals anymore. What made this South Park episode hurt even more was the timing. It came out right when people were already upset about Snow White. The funny clips spread across social media, making Zegler an even bigger target. Behind the scenes, sources say she was incredibly upset and even tried to get Comedy Central to remove the episode. Of course, they didn't. One of the funniest parts was when South Park made fun of Zegler's comments about the original Snow White story. They took her opinions and made them so extreme that everyone could see how silly it sounds to criticize a beloved fairy tale that millions of kids have enjoyed for decades.
By that, I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
The episode didn't just stop at making fun of Zegler's comments, though. It went after the whole Disney approach. The characters talked about how Disney keeps changing everything to be more lame while their stock price drops. It's like the South Park creators knew exactly what buttons to push to make Disney executives panic. What really got people's attention was how the episode showed Cartman having nightmares about all his favorite characters being replaced.
I was replaced by a diverse woman!
Oh, not again.
Yeah, only this time, it wasn't just me. They were taking all my favorite people and replacing them with diverse women complaining about the patriarchy.
This struck a chord with viewers who felt the same way, that the characters and stories they grew up loving were being changed for reasons that had nothing to do with making better movies.
Every way that Disney changed the story, it changed it for the worse.
Within days of the episode airing, fan-made compilations comparing South Park's parody to actual clips from Snow White interviews were getting millions of views. People were shocked at how accurate the parody was. This only made more viewers curious to see just how bad the actual movie could be. Then something really unexpected happened. The Simpsons joined in on the fun. What makes this so crazy? Disney owns The Simpsons. It's like getting punched by your own teammate. Their episode showed a fake movie called Snow Woke. the reimagining with a princess who hates fairy tales, romance, and seems to dislike the audience too. The Simpsons takedown hurt way more because it came from inside Disney's own family. Their version had a princess who was super rude to anyone trying to help her, especially guys. When both South Park and The Simpsons attack the same thing, you know something big is happening. The fact that Disney couldn't even stop their own show from making fun of their new movie shows how messy things are inside the company right now. People online immediately started comparing both parodies to Zegler's real interviews. They look so similar that everyone could see the connection. What might have been just a few days of bad news turned into weeks of Disney trying to clean up the mess. What makes this even crazier is that The Simpsons is usually pretty careful about not making fun of their Disney bosses too directly. Since Disney bought Fox in 2019, The Simpsons has made occasional jokes about Disney, but nothing this harsh. It's like the writers saw an opportunity too good to pass up and decided to risk it. The episode featured a scene where the snow-woke princess refuses help because she doesn't need a man and then promptly falls into deeper trouble. Another scene showed her refusing to sing because she found the original songs problematic, a clear dig at how the remake handled the classic songs everyone loves. Industry insiders were shocked that Disney executives didn't step in to stop the episode from airing. Some people think it shows how divided Disney is internally right now, with different teams fighting over the company's direction. Others think Disney might have allowed it to go through as a way to test audience reactions without taking direct blame. Things got even worse when stories came out about Jack Black, one of the most liked actors in Hollywood, supposedly confronting Zegler after her interviews went viral. People close to the movie say the famous actor was pretty direct with his criticism. He apparently thought both Zegler and Gal Gadot's acting was stiff and didn't connect with audiences. Jack Black, who's known for speaking his mind, didn't just blame the movie's problems on the controversial comments. He thought the bigger issue was that the actors didn't seem real or believable when playing their parts. People online started comparing clips of Gadot as Wonder Woman to her as the evil queen, noticing she acted almost exactly the same in both roles, even though they're totally different characters. Some sources say the confrontation was so upsetting that Zegler needed therapy afterward. While her team denied this happened, the damage was already done. This story made it clear that even other famous actors thought the Snow White remake was a disaster. Oh, Zegler, this couldn't be worse. She was supposed to be Disney's new star in the movie that started Disney's whole empire. Instead of making her career bigger, this role might have seriously damaged it. Jack Black has worked with Disney several times and is known for being super positive and fun to work with, so when rumors spread that even he couldn't stay quiet about the Snow White disaster, people took notice. According to insiders, Black was particularly upset about how the remake handled the music for one of the most important parts of the original film. The supposed confrontation happened at an industry event where both stars were present. While Black's representatives have denied any heated exchange, multiple witnesses claim they saw an intense conversation that left Zegler visibly upset. One source claimed Black told her directly that throwing the original story under the bus was a huge mistake, and that you have to respect what came before you. What makes this story so damaging is that Jack Black represents exactly the kind of audience Disney needs. He's a parent who brings his kids to movies, and he's a performer who understands what makes stories work. If someone like him is upset, that means Disney has failed with a core part of their audience. When Joe Rogan and Bill Maher agree on something, it's a big deal. These two famous commentators usually have different views, but they both thought Disney's Snow White remake was a terrible idea. On his hugely popular podcast, Rogan talked about how Disney seems terrified of making anyone upset, so they're changing their movies in ways that actually make more people mad. Maher made fun of how the movie rejected the whole fairy tale romance that made the original story special in the first place. Both guys focused on how Zegler seemed proud that the remake wasn't about a girl dreaming of meeting a prince. In interviews, she even hinted that they might cut out the prince character completely from the final movie. This attitude about removing the romance that made the original story so beloved seemed to prove what critics feared most. Disney cared more about pushing messages than making movies people actually enjoy. Both Rogan and Maher said that by trying so hard to please certain groups, Disney forgot that people go to movies to have fun and escape reality, not to get lessons about how to think. They also talked about Zegler's social media post where she had attacked Trump supporters by insulting millions of potential moviegoers before the film even came out. She basically guaranteed that a huge chunk of the audience wouldn't buy tickets. Rogan's podcast reaches over 11 million listeners per episode, and his discussion of Snow White quickly became one of his most viral clips of the year. He spent nearly 20 minutes breaking down why the remake was failing so badly, bringing up everything from the casting decisions to the way Disney handled the marketing. "I don't get why they keep doing this," Rogan said on his show. "They take something everyone already likes, change all the parts people actually enjoy, then act surprised when nobody wants to see it." Maher devoted a segment of his show to what he called fairy tale panic, suggesting that Hollywood has become so worried about appearing progressive that they're rewriting stories that never needed fixing. He pointed out the irony that Disney is pretending to be brave by attacking princesses when their entire brand was built on princess stories. What makes these critiques especially powerful is that neither Rogan nor Maher is known for being particularly conservative. When critics from across the political spectrum are all saying the same thing, it suggests the problem isn't political, it's about basic storytelling and respecting audiences. The weirdest part of the whole Snow White mess might be what happened with the Seven Dwarfs. When actor Peter Dinklage said he thought the dwarfs in the remake might stereotype little people, Disney quickly announced they'd replace them with magical creatures instead. This move, that was supposed to be progressive, totally backfired. Little person actors got angry about losing rare major roles specifically created for performers of their height. They pointed out that Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs literally has dwarfs in the title. These were some of the few big Hollywood roles designed specifically for them. When pictures of the replacement magical creatures leaked online, fans were super confused. Instead of the lovable dwarfs with their different personalities that everyone remembers, they saw weird, computer-generated characters that looked like they belonged in a cheap fantasy movie nobody would watch. The most ironic part? By trying not to offend anyone, Disney actually took away job opportunities from a group that rarely gets major roles, and by removing the dwarfs completely, they cut out one of the most important and beloved parts of the original story. This controversy started back in 2022 when Dinklage, famous for his role in Game of Thrones, criticized the idea of remaking Snow White with the traditional Seven Dwarves. "You're still telling the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me," he said in an interview. Within 24 hours of his comments, Disney released a statement saying they were taking a different approach and would avoid reinforcing stereotypes. What they didn't mention was that this different approach would mean eliminating roles for little person actors entirely. The backlash from the little person community was immediate. Several actors spoke out saying Disney had overreacted. "These are literally the most famous dwarf roles in history," one actor explained. "Instead of recasting them with little people and giving them more personality and depth, they just erased us completely. Disney spent millions redesigning these characters, only to end up with something that satisfied nobody. Fans of the original were upset at losing the iconic dwarfs, little person actors lost rare job opportunities, and even progressive critics thought Disney had missed the point entirely. It became a perfect example of how trying too hard to avoid criticism can actually create much bigger problems. Just days after coming out, headlines were calling Snow White a total failure. The movie reportedly cost over $200 million, including marketing. Disney expected at least $150 million opening weekend. Instead, they barely made $43 million. An absolute disaster for a remake of the movie that started Disney's whole animation empire. The most embarrassing moment came when Zegler herself reportedly visited a theater with friends, only to find it almost completely empty. A video that went viral showed her small group trying to act excited, with a friend awkwardly cheering Zegler when her name appeared on screen in the nearly empty theater. The toys and merchandise aren't selling either. Snow White dolls and other products are just sitting on store shelves. Parents aren't taking their kids to see a movie that throws away all the magic that made the original special. Experts say Disney might have to fire a lot of people because of this. After multiple big failures, Lightyear, Strange World, and now Snow White, the company is in financial trouble. Investors are super angry that what should have been an easy win turned into such a huge failure. For other movie studios watching from the sidelines, the message is pretty clear. Audiences will reject movies that try to teach them lessons instead of entertaining them, no matter how much they love the original. And when South Park, The Simpsons, Jack Black, Joe Rogan, and Bill Maher all agree on something, maybe it's time to listen. The big question now is whether Disney will learn anything from this disaster, or keep going with an approach that has pushed away huge numbers of their fans. Right now, it seems like the smartest person at Disney would be any executive brave enough to admit they messed up. The failure is especially shocking because Disney spent so much money making sure the movie looked incredible. The special effects budget alone was reportedly over $100 million. They hired award-winning costume designers, built elaborate sets, and used cutting-edge computer graphics. But as one critic put it, all the beautiful visuals in the world can't save a story that doesn't work. Theater owners are especially upset because they were counting on Snow White to bring in families during a slow movie season. One theater chain owner told reporters that they had prepared special Snow White-themed concessions and decorations, only to find themselves with empty auditoriums and wasted investments. The international numbers aren't looking much better in countries like Japan, France, and the UK, places where Disney princesses are usually extremely popular. Ticket sales have been well below expectations. Industry analysts say this suggests the problem isn't just with American audiences, but reflects a global rejection of Disney's new approach. What's especially troubling for Disney is that they have several more live-action remakes in production. Movies like Moana, Hercules, and Lilo and Stitch are already in various stages of development. Sources inside the company say executives are frantically reviewing these projects to avoid repeating the Snow White disaster. Some former Disney executives have started speaking out too. One retired Disney producer said the company has lost touch with what made their stories connect with audiences in the first place. Another suggested that Disney has become too focused on pleasing critics instead of pleasing audiences. The Snow White disaster isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a bigger problem Disney has been facing for the last few years. Their stock price has dropped dramatically since 2021. And they've lost millions of subscribers to their Disney Plus streaming service. Theme park attendance is down too, with many families complaining that Disney vacations have gotten way too expensive while the experience has gotten worse. Even classic rides are being changed in ways that upset longtime fans. Some industry experts think Snow White is just the most visible sign of a company that's lost its way. Former Disney CEO Bob Iger came back to try fixing things, but so far the problems keep getting worse. One Wall Street analyst called Disney a company in crisis and said they need to make major changes fast. The bigger issue seems to be that Disney has forgotten who their core audience is. Families with kids have always been Disney's bread and butter. These are people who want fun, magical experiences they can enjoy together, not controversial statements or political messages. What's strange is that Disney seems genuinely surprised by the backlash. Reports from inside the company suggest that executives expected Snow White to be celebrated for its modern take on the classic story. Instead, they're facing mockery from every direction. Other studios are watching closely and already changing their plans. Warner Bros. Has reportedly shelved several remakes that were going to take a similar approach to classic stories. Universal Pictures is said to be emphasizing fun and escapism in their upcoming family films, seeing an opportunity to grab Disney's audience. Meanwhile, smaller animation studios like Illumination, who make the Despicable Me movies, and Sony Animation are thriving because they focus on making entertaining movies without trying to rewrite classic stories or make big statements. Rachel Zegler, the fallout from Snow White could change her whole career. Just a few years ago, she was Hollywood's exciting new star after West Side Story. Everyone was talking about her amazing voice and acting skills. Disney cast her as Snow White, thinking she'd be perfect to lead their most important princess movie. Now, industry insiders say some studios are nervous about casting her in family-friendly projects. Her comments about Snow White and her social media posts have made her controversial with the exact audience these movies need to attract. Sources close to Zegler say she's frustrated that her comments were taken out of context. She reportedly feels that she was just trying to explain how the remake was updating the story for modern audiences, not attacking fans of the original. But the damage has been done. The combination of her pre-release comments, the movie's failure, and the brutal parodies on shows like South Park have created a perfect storm that's hard to recover from. Some Hollywood agents think she needs to take a different career path for a while, maybe focusing on indie dramas or more mature roles where her comments won't matter as much. Others suggest she might need to publicly acknowledge that she understands why fans were upset. What makes this situation especially tough is that much of the criticism isn't about Zegler's performance itself. Most reviewers agree she has talent. The problem is everything surrounding the movie. The marketing, the interviews, and the changes to the beloved story. Young actors in Hollywood are now watching closely, learning an important lesson. Be careful what you say about iconic characters that millions of people love. Showing respect for the stories that came before you might be just as important as bringing something new to the role. Disney now faces some tough choices about their future. Do they keep trying to update classic stories? Or do they go back to what made these movies special in the first place? Some insiders say there are heated debates happening inside Disney right now. One group wants to stay the course, believing that younger audiences want more modern takes on classic stories. Another group points to the Snow White disaster as proof that they need to return to more traditional storytelling. The company has already spent billions on upcoming remakes like The Little Mermaid 2, Moana, and Hercules. Changing direction now would be expensive and embarrassing, but continuing with the same approach could lead to more expensive failures. What makes this especially complicated is that Disney isn't just a movie studio. They're a massive empire built on characters and stories. When a movie fails, it affects theme parks, merchandise, Disney Plus, and more. They can't just shrug off a bomb like Snow White the way other studios might. Bob Iger, who came back as CEO to fix Disney's problems, is reportedly taking a personal interest in the Snow White situation. Sources say he's ordered a complete review of all upcoming remakes to make sure they don't repeat the same mistakes. The good news for Disney is that they still own some of the most beloved characters and stories ever created. If they can figure out what went wrong with Snow White and fix it, they could bounce back quickly. The bad news is that trust is hard to rebuild once it's broken. Parents who felt like Disney was talking down to them or ignoring what their kids actually want might think twice before buying tickets next time, no matter what changes the company makes. The Snow White disaster might actually be good news for movie fans in the long run. Studios are suddenly paying attention to what audiences actually want instead of just following trends or trying to please critics. For years, Hollywood has been remaking classic movies with a formula. Take a beloved story, change key elements to make it fresh or relevant, and market it based on nostalgia. The problem is that they often change the very things people loved about the original. With Snow White, Disney went so far that they basically made an anti-Snow White movie. They removed the romance, changed the dwarfs, and had their star criticize the original story in interviews. It's like making a Spider-Man movie where Peter Parker hates spiders and never gets superpowers. Industry experts say we're seeing a major shift happening right now. The combination of Snow White bombing, Top Gun Maverick becoming a massive hit by respecting its source material, and comedians openly mocking Hollywood's approach is creating a perfect storm for change. Movie studios are businesses, and businesses follow the money. If respecting original stories and focusing on entertainment rather than messages leads to bigger profits, that's the direction they'll go. Several upcoming remakes are reportedly being reworked behind the scenes, scripts are being rewritten to stay closer to the originals, and marketing teams are being told to avoid having actors criticize the source material in interviews. This doesn't mean movies won't continue to include diverse casts or modern elements. Those things can work great when they're done thoughtfully. What's changing is the attitude toward the classics. Instead of treating them like outdated stories that need fixing, studios may start approaching them with more respect. The Snow White disaster isn't just about one bad movie. It might mark the end of an entire approach to filmmaking. For years, big studios like Disney have been remaking classics with a formula that clearly isn't working anymore. The combination of South Park's brutal parody, The Simpsons joining in despite being owned by Disney, Hollywood stars speaking out, and empty theaters sending a clear message, audiences are tired of seeing beloved stories changed in ways that don't make them better. What makes this situation so unique is how public and widespread the backlash has been. It's not just angry fans online, it's some of the biggest names in entertainment openly mocking Disney's approach. When people from all different backgrounds and political views agree that something isn't working, that's a powerful signal. For Rachel Zegler, this experience will probably shape her career for years to come. She's incredibly talented, but she learned the hard way that talking negatively about a beloved character you're playing can backfire badly. Future stars will likely study this case as a warning about what not to do when promoting a movie. For Disney, the path forward isn't clear. They've already spent billions on upcoming remakes that follow a similar approach to Snow White. Changing course now would be expensive and embarrassing, but continuing down the same path could lead to more expensive failures. The irony is that Disney became the most successful entertainment company in history by understanding something simple. People want stories that transport them to magical worlds, make them feel good, and leave them inspired. Somewhere along the way, they seem to have forgotten that. Other studios are already changing their plans. Warner Bros. Has reportedly paused several remakes to reconsider their approach. Universal is emphasizing fun and escapism in their upcoming family films. The entire industry is watching Disney stumble and taking notes. Maybe the biggest lesson from this whole mess is that audiences are smarter than Hollywood sometimes gives them credit for. They can tell when a movie is made with genuine love for the source material versus when it's trying to fix something that wasn't broken. As one viral tweet put it, Disney didn't need to make Snow White more relevant. Snow White was already relevant for nearly 90 years because it was a good story well told. The question now is whether Disney and other studios will listen to what audiences are telling them. If they do, we might be entering a new era where remakes honor what made the original special while still finding fresh ways to tell those stories. If they don't, well, South Park and The Simpsons will probably have plenty more material for future episodes. That's the shocking truth behind Disney's Snow White disaster that the mainstream media won't tell you. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's biggest controversy, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to stay ahead of the crowd with more exclusive industry insights that you won't find anywhere else. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Did Disney deserve this humiliation, or did they just make an honest mistake? Your opinion matters, and I read every comment. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our next bombshell video, dropping very soon.